Well, happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Gobble,
We're
gobble.
So gobbly full of turkey. It's December now.
Yeah.
And we don't know
Thanksgiving
how to
is-
do podcasts in the off season.
You'd think by now we'd have mastered this because it's basically all we do.
Yeah, all we do. Come on, man. We're real people with real lives and real jobs, and
Also true. That's very true.
don't make
However,
us out to be worse than we already are.
The off-season start is not a new phenomenon for us.
That's true. That's true. We should be better at this. We'll
get better
at this.
Don't give up on us.
All right. New intro. Hey, everybody. Welcome to 100 Talk. I'm Cole. He's Jordan. And we're here to talk about all of the great happenings with 100 Thieves in the past 8 or 9 days or so, because we've been off on holiday.
Today was a big day for League of Legends, Cole. We got full roster reveals. Full roster reveals.
On both levels, my friend, and we're ready to trust the Papa. Trust the Papa. Trust the Papa. Okay, for real. That's enough of that.
That was good. I like that. Let's do that more often.
1 second, though. 1 second before we start for real. Nice hoodie, my friend.
Oh,
is that perhaps the 100 Thieves cream hoodie?
This is
version 2.
Yeah, it is. 100 Thieves right there on the front.
Yeah.
Maybe. Version 2.
Mine came today. Surprise.
Just today.
Well, I had my mail held all last week. So thank you to whoever it is, Jackson Ibrahim, whoever is sending us the care package. We appreciate it. But of course, we haven't forgotten you all, our faithful viewers. We'll talk about that on another stream, though. So there's a little hint dropping. Anyway, so the last time we talked, we were debating whether or not Ryoma was going to be a starter. Yes. We didn't know what was going down with the Academy squad. And all of those questions and more have been answered now. So we're here for our weekly or so check-in.
That's right.
On everything.
I don't know how many more of the weekly check-ins will be needed because it'll probably get a little bit more quiet at this point. I would hope no more roster announcements until not for a long next offseason.
Let's put it this way. If there are roster announcements from here going forward, it's probably not a good sign.
It's not. And I don't want to do another like off season roster show. Just not. Don't do that. It's fine. We don't need it. Well, I'm sure the team is on the same page.
Here, as we said, we are going to talk about Ryoma first. I will keep wanting to say Ryoma.
Is it Ryoma? You're going with Ryoma?
Extensive VOD watching.
It's going to be really hard.
It's always Ryoma for them, so I'm going to go with Ryoma.
Okay, thank you for.
And that's what it was in the PapaSmithy video as well. So
okay.
So we've done a little bit of that. We're going to talk about him first. And we'll give some thoughts on the overall LCS roster. And then, of course, there were a couple of announcements on the Academy front with Contractz and Breezyyy being announced earlier today. So we'll talk about that as well. So we're going to work our way down.
Yes, we will.
So first of all,
top to bottom,
a little bit of homework. Did you do homework on Ryoma? Because I did.
Cole, I have failed the exam.
Oh my gosh.
I don't have my homework done. I'm so sorry.
All of your
I keep
expertise
having a recurring
right
stress dream, though, that I have showed up to this podcast unprepared, and here I am.
Fulfilling that dream.
Upon me.
Well, lucky
but I know
for
you did.
I did.
So I knew that I could kind of do like the copy off your neighbor move.
Yeah. Well, look, I have binge watched some Ryoma VODs, some Bombers VODs specifically. And I wanted to make a few observations. Now, for the people that are new to this show, you will quickly learn, and probably will quickly learn over the course of the next segment, that we ourselves are not expert League of Legends players, not even expert League of Legends watchers, if we're being honest.
Cole, you may have reached that threshold.
No,
I mean, you've done your homework on Ryoma.
So look,
that's pretty expert.
My observations are going to be couched in the knowledge that I am not an analyst. Okay, so I'm just going to give you some general things. I'm not digging super deep with this. Okay, so here's what I saw, and I went through I think it was 10 VODs or so from the last split in OPL.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
first general observation. So interestingly enough, there's been kind of a thing, right, of OPL players coming to NA for this upcoming split. And I gotta say, I wasn't super impressed with the level of play that I saw
overall
out of the teams. So this is Bombers and the other teams that they were playing. Even the teams that made it to Worlds, like Mammoth, I think it was.
Yeah.
They, I just think Margiela every time because it's MMM. In my head, they're just Margiela. I wasn't super impressed with the level of play, I gotta say. It was super crazy and scrappy, but it looked not the cleanest. It looked very chaotic and less calculated than even an NA skirmish would. So that was interesting. Here's the thing with Ryoma specifically. I felt that it was very much a case of him 1v9ing during these games. And that actually makes it incredibly difficult to evaluate how good he is. Because he was at the mercy of his team. I thought in particular, his jungler was pretty weak and just felt
do you remember
like
his name?
Wilder or something like that. No, it's like Wilder or something like that.
Okay.
But I swear to you, he played Jarvan so many times and would just he's just an engaged machine, right? Like he would EQ and then R, trap people in Cataclysm and just flash out and then just
there you go.
Almost die doing that and then see what happens, like all the time.
Cole, in a 30-minute match, you can do that at least 4 times probably. So there you go. There's your contribution to the match.
Yeah. So there was a lot of that going on where it just felt like he was on a different plane than his team. Now that could be potentially a good sign, honestly.
Yeah. But when you say 1v9, sometimes when you're 1v9, the chips don't fall your way.
Oh, usually they didn't.
Okay.
Most of the games, in fact, that I watched were losses. Now, they had an okay split. They did better when FBI was still on the team. But they had an okay split. It wasn't terrible. But I saw a lot of dropped games in the VODs that I was watching. Here's what I'll say about him on the laning side. I thought he was actually pretty good in lane, and he really, really rarely fell behind. In fact, I can't remember him being in the 10 or so games that I watched. I can't remember him being more than 5 or 10 CS behind. And in most cases, he on the kill side, he was doing well also. That said, it seemed like he had tendency to be very, very aggressive in lane and to push up a lot. And to the point where he would get caught out on ganks pretty easily in the early game, which I thought was kind of a problem. It seemed to be habitual. Again, this is a small sample size. I'm looking at 10 or so games, but I saw that happen a whole lot during the early game. Sometimes he got away with it and sometimes he didn't. And giving away those early kills, fortunately, didn't seem to make everything snowball out of control every game. It did occasionally, to where his opposing mid laner would just get super strong. But most of the time, he was keeping pace, which was good to see. Right? Again, OPL level of play, it's hard to evaluate like how that's going to translate into NA for me because I don't have a lot of experience seeing that. But it at least seemed like he would make mistakes. Being aggressive and trying to get advantages, which is, I mean, at least he has that attacking mentality, and then was kind of able to pull them off sometimes even when they went wrong. I don't expect that to continue as much. Like, I don't think you can get away with things as easily in a major region, even if we are the weakest major region. I think officially, I think he'll have more problems doing that. But that tendency was a little bit scary to me. Now, I think he's going to be more of an aggro player. There are shades of leader in there, as I think a couple of people in our Discord pointed that out. There are definitely shades of leader in there. Maybe not so much on the aggression side, but that will be his play style.
LIDER for those who are
LIDER, from formerly of Misfits.
Yep.
So there's going to be aggression there. If there's one thing we know is that he is going to try and make aggressive plays.
Right. So all the things you're saying, not to, I don't mean this with any disrespect. Those are the opposite qualities that we saw from Sligo. He was a very conservative mid laner who played it seemed often not to lose. He would spend a lot of time back in lane. Like, we haven't done the analysis, we haven't seen the numbers, but I'm guessing if you compared their forward percentage, it would be like inverse.
Yeah.
Based on what you just told me. I think that's positive. I think the problem we ran into with Saligo is that I don't think that play style works. A lot of people looked at FakeGod up top, and he exhibited a lot of those qualities as well, right? He was a pressure sponge. He was just trying not to feed the enemy team too much, and they would throw a lot at him, and he was very good at kind of having them waste their time. Most famously TSM. And I'll bring it up whenever I can. But what I think we learned is that you really can't get away with that play style in the LCS, at least in 2019 in mid lane. I'm very interested to see. And that's the other thing that I think we picked up on is it's super hard to change your mentality if you are a player who is more predisposed to play back in your lane, to play more safe, and let's not forget, it required a lot of resources to keep him from giving over those kills, right? We saw Afro roaming up to mid a lot. We saw Amazing popping in pretty frequently to counter gank and just make sure that he's not getting blown up. So I think this dynamic will certainly be different from that. And I'll be really interested to see if this is the type of mentality that is going to be more successful in the LCS, assuming that we can, over time, develop, keyword, his ability to not get caught out as frequently, because players they'll pick up on that. And I'm sure they already have. And I'm sure that the 2020 starting junglers are already plotting out their jungle paths when they play 100 Thieves so that they can stop by when he's up past river, right? And just get a free sweet kill.
Yeah.
So he'll have time to practice that and to, especially with Meteos, kind of sync that up. And because you can bet that the other teams are also practicing kind of with that in mind as well as they prepare for us.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Meteos thing. I'm going to return to that in a minute. Before we do, though, because I think what you said is going to be absolutely crucial to his early success in LCS. But before we go into that, I did just want to make some comments. I mean, mechanically, he seems like a pretty decent player. I don't think he has mind-blowing mechanics that make you like your jaw drop to the floor, with a couple of exceptions. We retweeted that play against Fangvu Buffalo, where he basically single-handedly turned in an ace off of some pretty crazy plays. Like that happens. It's not the usual. Like you don't see him every game make some mind-shattering play. But those plays aren't possible unless you're set up right on the Blanc, right? Sure.
Like, otherwise, you're just doing a lot of fancy footwork, probably running away more than chasing people down and blowing them up.
Yeah, but
like it takes the right game to get that highlight.
Right. And so the takeaway is he's got good mechanics, it seems like, to my inexperienced eyes. But he doesn't have like, I don't know. It just seems like solid. It's not bad. I didn't see him make like all these mistakes that make me worry or anything like that. But there may be some high level play potential in there that we can unlock. So that's cool. But I'm not expecting him to come in and immediately just be making these crazy plays. Like candidly, I was impressed with some of the things FakeGod would do more than what I've seen so far from Ryoma in this little time I've spent watching him. So there's that. Now, returning to what you said about Meteos, I think that's going to be so key in him not getting exploited in LCS, especially early on. Like you said, other teams, other players are going to be aware of his aggression, and Meteos is going to need to have this guy's back for sure. Because he is going to need to get bailed out. He's going to need to have proximity from Meteos often and at the right time. So their synergy is going to be critically important. That said, one of the things that PapaSmithy brought up in the video that they made about Ryoma was that his time playing with Meteos showed them that they had some kind of synergy. They were on the same page, unafraid to talk to each other and communicate quickly and efficiently. So that's actually a good sign for me. That's on the encouraging end for me. I think Meteos is the kind of player that wants to go in and make a play. And
Yes.
so if they're both thinking that way and they're not afraid to bark at each other when they need to make something happen quickly, then that should bode well for them. So interesting to hear PapaSmithy specifically bring that up during the I guess was it like a trial run that they did, like a tryout with him specifically playing with Meteos or something like that. Like I couldn't quite piece it together, or if that happened after the fact.
We want you to play with Meteos. No reason. Just give it a shot. See how it feels.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think it's if you're an aggressive jungler, it's so sweet to have also an aggressive mid to play off of. I think there's a lot of opportunity there to expand upon a lead. Ideally, right? He's going to be getting favorable trades. He's going to be forcing the enemy mid laner to stick around and farm in unfavorable conditions, lower health, a little bit behind on farm. Maybe that's what you get from playing aggressive. I think that's what we ran into when we had Saligo in that same spot, right? He's falling further and further behind. It becomes that much easier for the power spike to be in the enemy team's favor. So I think it'll be very interesting. Another thing that I don't know, I haven't seen as much people talk about, but I'm curious to see how it works is, and I don't know that this is the type of player he is, right? As we talked about a mid like Huhi, everybody talked about his ability to roam.
Mm-hmm.
Pressure in your lane is how you get that ability. So if you are frantically trying to catch every CS you can under your turret, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
If he pushes out lane, if he gets a 1 kill up and he gets that advantage, I think that opens up a lot of possibilities for him to also start making some plays elsewhere on the map, which we just frankly haven't had. Ryu is the closest we get to that, right? And he does that, and that's I think one of the things that really made him a differential mid for us. Is that was something he did that we hadn't had other mids do.
Well,
so very interested to see that.
I think watching Bombers, I think they clearly knew he was their best player. And so they drafted him into favorable lane situations, but he was doing that the whole time. So he would quickly push out the wave, and then he would look for the next thing to do. So that's definitely his style, is to have that rhythm of pushing out the wave, leave, and then come back just in time to collect. So I think it'll be interesting to see how 100 Thieves handles this with someday up in top lane if they prioritize him. If it's anything like 2018, I'm guessing they actually don't, and they might give priority somewhere else.
Right.
And then even Cody Sun, someday and Cody Sun could have drafting priority potentially. So I think this will somewhat depend on the priority that we give him in draft. So we'll have to see what the communication is on that end, if they say anything strategy wise, or if we just have to wait and see how the team's going to play. But definitely that's the style that he is used to playing.
Let's not miss this opportunity to talk about Dragon Control, because if you've played any preseason patch, you know that that's a key part of this game. I'm just going to say, in the past, I think everybody overread into the turret plating and how much that would free people up. I consider myself amongst that group. Yeah. But you need to have the ability to invest resources into dragons. And if you are constantly pulling your mid laner off of a shoved lane to try to counter a dragon take, or try to sneak one, you're going to fall that much further behind. So I think in that sense, an aggressive mid is what you need more probably now than ever. And again, I'm not the theory crafter that you want to talk to make your plans for 2020. But if I had to guess, I'd say that's just an extra thing that's going to make it valuable to have somebody who can play that way in lane. All of this, of course, hinging on how he matches up against the competition. He's playing against some of the world's best mids. And I'm saying the world's because they're almost all imports. It's not just NA talent he's up against. It truly is who can we find and bring to NA to play mid. So playing aggressive in when you're on Bombers is going to be very different from Thieves. And I just think we should, all of this might change once we actually see the matchups. And that's why it's a developmental project.
Yeah, and I agree that this is going to be definitely a developmental project. I think PapaSmithy was even joking with him about inting during some of his most recent matches, and if you do that in the video, man, there's gonna be some expectation there that he's going to have his lumps, right?
Yeah.
Which is fine. I think it's fine because where we are right now, I don't think anyone's looking at the rosters around LCS and be like, okay, the time is now for 100 Thieves. So so it's cool, you know, it's cool to have him be in a more developmental spot where he can feel out the right balance and learn to make those things happen. But the good thing is he does have the confidence to be that kind of player. So he has the confidence to keep grinding for it and to keep feeling it out. And PapaSmithy obviously has the trust in him to let him do that. And presumably Zikz too. I know Zikz wasn't in that video, but it does seem that there's a lot of harmony between PapaSmithy and Zikz so far. So hopefully that's going to be a strategy, is to let this guy grow and to see if he can be a permanently viable product in the LCS.
Yeah, let's also agree that if he goes out in week 1 and doesn't have that hard carry game, let's not blow this up. Like, let's not all get the pitchforks out. Yeah. If it worked every time, it wouldn't be developmental. That's not what that means. Mm-hmm. So you've got to expect and accept that there are going to be games that he doesn't do as well as we'd hope. And I think you just have to accept that. So, you know, what, again, like, this will be the part of the roster that we probably look at and say, how did he do this week compared to last week? And did he get caught out of position fewer times, right? And is he able to translate that mid lane priority into better objective control? Like, those are all things that we'll be wanting to watch, not just did he go 11, 1, and 4, right?
Yeah.
That will be great too. We'll take that. But I don't think we should expect that week 1, and it certainly isn't going to be an every week kind of thing.
And I think we should take our time with this whole thing.
Yes,
not rush to judgment. And chat, a couple people in chat are saying the same thing. Like, let's give this room to breathe. Let's see how it plays out over the first few weeks before we really make up our mind about how it's going. I think we've learned that lesson before. And you know, just trust the Papa, man. That's just trust the Papa. Speaking of trust the Papa, overall roster. Now that we know where we stand with everything, and we know who's going to be playing, we know that this is like a return to 2018 with a couple of small changes being made. How are you thinking about our roster overall? Where do you think we rank in terms of the other teams that are in LCS? We don't have the full picture for some of these teams, but we have a pretty good idea, especially of the more the more highly thought of teams right now. So where do you think we're landing among this as of right now with your current feelings on the roster?
Yeah, at this moment, I feel better than I was prepared to feel about the team and where I projected we might be at this point. I mean, I think if you just go position by position, right? Someday is going to win a lot of matchups. We know that. We've seen it happen time and time again. No reason to think that's going to be any different. Meteos does the exact same thing. Mid lane, we just talked about a lot. Cody-san, we've seen him carry games as recently as the end of last split. And Stunt is another question mark in my mind. We have not seen a big percentage of his games being played on the LCS stage. So,
sure.
I mean, you asked me, would you take 3 out of 5 positions with winning matchups any day of the week? Yes, I would take that happily. So I think we're at the very least a mid-table team. Like, I think we are a team who I expect us to make playoffs. And again, we can talk a little bit more about how some of the other teams are changing and looking, but this team can compete for playoffs. There's no doubt in my mind on that, assuming everything goes well. And I think there's potential that if Ryoma and Stunt can start to gel and really kind of reach new heights, for us to push for like the top. Gosh, this is where people are going to really stick to my words, but I already said like mid-table, top half. I'll hedge that just a little bit. Top half. We could fight for the top half of the table, I think.
Yeah. Right now, I'm feeling like we're somewhere. I think we're in low playoff range, with a potential higher ceiling. Some of the teams looking at the roster seem very disorganized and very,
Yep.
up in the air. Some of them just kind of seem bad to me. So when I'm looking at our talent level, I think somewhere around sixth probably seems right to me.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how CLG is going to do and TSM. So there may be some room for us to bump up a little bit. But
Cole, I do want to just call out.
Sure.
We have Kelsey in chat, and she said Braum buffs on 9.24. It's 1.
So safe Braum is locked in.
Safe Braum is locked in, dude.
They're gonna have to ban it every time.
It's gonna be a first 3 ban from the enemy team every time. Stunt on Braum is a sight you like to see, so that does bode well for us.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I think we're going to finish better than we finished in the previous split. So that in and of itself is good. It feels like we're moving in the right direction, but for me, it feels even better because it feels like we have more room to grow. So, you know what I mean? It's like if you take this team versus the 2019 team, it's like even if we finish in the same spot, I would feel better about the 2020 team because the like Stunt and Ryoma could develop and get better, and we already kind of know what we're getting with the other guys. Whereas with the 2019 team, it's players who are not with the exception of FakeGod, players who are not really progressing right now in their careers, more just holding the line where they are. And then the chemistry wise, it just didn't work as well as we would have hoped. So with that reasoning, I'm a little more optimistic about this team.
Yeah.
But I'm trying really hard to not get too excited and not expect Ryoma to just come in there and destroy everybody. So that would probably not be wise.
Yeah, that's a way to set yourself up for disappointment. Let me ask you about the role you think. Okay, someday Meteos, Cody-san, were a big part of the roster that got us into a position to play for Worlds. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. How important do you think it is for young players to get that kind of experience? Worlds, playoffs, LCS finals, even if it doesn't go well, and even if we leave and people say NA still sucks, right? Like even if we don't make it out of groups, even if how important is that developmentally for players to be there?
As long as there's not this massive chasm between them and the competition that they're playing against, I think it's super useful because you get a feel for how people who are better than you play. Yeah. And you get experience for what it's like to be on a stage that's bigger, right? Where more people are watching, more people are feeling pressure. So you get experience with that as a player, in addition to learning lessons from guys who are likely a lot better than you. So I think it's super valuable, even if it doesn't go very well. Like I said, as long as you're not so far behind that you can't do anything or you can't learn anything. Because you know what I mean? Like if I go and play against G2, there's no learning to be had there.
Right.
There's no
you learn you get very acquainted with the walk back from fountain to lane.
And guess what? I already know what that's like, and I already know what the grayscale screen feels like. So I'm not learning anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I definitely have a preference for players who would have that opportunity and have that experience.
Because this is one of my overall roster thoughts. I don't know that these are the players we'll have on this roster in 3, 4, 5 years, right? We've talked about that too, how one of the advantages of going for a developmental roster is you potentially have a longer window that you can look to have players, the same players on the roster, kind of developing together and coming into their own in a way that feels very organic, right? They know each other, they know how they play, they know their tendencies, et cetera, et cetera. So I think we haven't hit that mark, right? We have Meteos someday, Cody-san. These guys have won now, and I think we can continue to expect for them to win games for us. But I am interested to see if we get somebody on this roster, we have two kind of more developmental spots. Stunt obviously has a longer career. He's been around longer.
Yeah.
This is some of his first major chance at some LCS time. Um,
Sort of.
So I'm really interested to see if these two guys are able to pick up some of that experience and how that works for us in the longer term. Because I think that's something you don't really get for a team if what you have is 5 young players who the chances of them getting to those places is slim to none.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. So it's the combination of them with more established players that helps them to grow, which is actually, honestly, in my opinion, if you've got more to say on this topic, cool. But to me, that's a good segue into talking about the academy roster.
Let's do it.
Because that is, with the announcement that was made today, it's a really interesting mix. Okay. Obviously, the biggest news is probably the addition of Contractz.
Yes.
So Contractz being, in my opinion, an underrated jungler. He was someone who I threw out during our free agency show as someone that I would actually like us to acquire, right? He wasn't my first choice, but he was definitely someone who's like, okay, I could feel good about that. And I will say, since then, I actually elevated my opinion of him since then, because I used to think that he would be definitely, in terms of champ pool, an improvement over Amazing, and then he could offer a couple extra things on the play style front. I honestly like feeling better about that right now. So it's interesting because now we have someone who has a lot of LCS experience backing up Meteos. Right. So we kind of have a ringer in our academy roster again. Like when we had Someday last year who just destroy everybody. There may be some potential for Contractz to do the same. And now you've got Contractz paired with an interesting mix of people, right? Because FakeGod spent a lot of time in LCS, did okay, and is very young, and he's a domestic prospect. So he's still developmental, I think, but he's on a different developmental level as some of the other guys, like, say, Saligo and Prismal, who had less experience, less time in LCS, even though they do have LCS games. And then you have the other addition of Breezzyy coming straight out of collegiate, right? He played for Arizona State, who, interestingly enough, like I'm honestly wondering how they found this kid, because like from what I know, and again, chat, correct me if I'm wrong, because this happens so often, but it doesn't seem like Arizona State has really been that good of a League of Legends team. Like they've been like a top 20 team, but they haven't been playing for titles as far as I'm aware. So it's kind of interesting. I wonder how they found this kid and how they picked him up.
Got the scouts.
But he's clearly at the most developmental level that you that you could possibly be. He's going to be the least experienced on our squad. So it's like we have all these levels, and we've paired these guys with Contractz, who I think is a very good player. Like I think Contractz should be an LCS starter somewhere. Yes. Like if not for the fact that we have him backing up Meteos, who was one of the top junglers of last split, Contractz should probably be, a starter. And I honestly think because Contractz had a bad split, like people are underrating him.
Yeah, recency bias on that one. Yeah, I mean, let's not forget Golden Guardians made a pretty good push, if I'm not mistaken, during a recent regular season split. I know that didn't quite last, but like they've had good quality play, and I know Froggen was on that team, and he played well for them at times. But yeah, so I agree. It feels like a steal. Like I think there are a lot of teams who would consider picking him up, and probably with an eye to have him either moving soon into a starting position or starting. So that definitely feels like one of those where he could be somebody we could find a way to play.
Wow. Well, that's complicated, right?
That is complicated.
So we have to talk about this. We have to talk.
Yes.
About this. Contractz. So backing up Meteos. Now, the last time Meteos was a member of 100 Thieves, if you can cast your mind back to those days,
going back.
And this, so obviously things kind of got a little bit out of control. There was some bad behind the scenes stuff apparently. And then perhaps a bit of miscommunication from both sides with him, to where it was unclear if he was trying to find a trade to another team or if he was just being traded. How serious those conversations were, I think were different on both sides. But the thing is, in his own words, he has said that he has always felt weird about having understudies behind him because, you know, you're potentially training your replacement, right? So it's like, am I expected to help this kid develop when theoretically he's taking over my spot? Okay.
Right.
So
like if he develops into an amazing best in NA player, I'm out of a job.
Yeah. And I don't think this is unique to Meteos by any means. I don't think this is some weird attitude that Meteos has. I think this is probably how most people feel, is that it's so hard to get that starting spot and to secure your livelihood that, of course, you don't want to feel that pressure. Okay. All I'm saying is that it didn't play out well our first go around with him. Right. And
it didn't
for
at all.
whatever reasons. Okay. But.
And let's also, I mean, we had Levi before, right?
Yeah.
Who was a player that everybody thought could be an NA starter.
A highly sought after guy. There's a lot of hype
highly
around
sought
him.
after, mechanically very skilled. I think there were it sounds like there were challenges finding a way to get him into the squad. You know, import rules aside, like they didn't really have a lot of opportunities to get him to play with the team. I know language is a really tough spot. So in a way, those things are less of a barrier now. I mean, they're not a barrier now. We have a domestic player without any language concerns, and ability to communicate is not on the table. I wonder, Cole, if what we see is Contractz smurfing, you know, weeks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in academy and absolutely just destroying people. Do you not look at it and say, well, what if we threw a curveball at Team Liquid next week? And what if we bring out, I mean, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, because I think it's within the realm of possibility. I don't think it's the plan right now.
No.
But I see what you're saying, because it's like, you know, he felt that pressure with Levi.
Yes.
And Levi was in a situation where we can't actually just throw him into the team because there had to be multiple moving parts with that because of the import situation. With Contractz, it's an easy 1-for-1 replacement in terms of actually making the switch. I'm not saying it's easy for the team to play with either jungler or whatever. I'm just saying you can quickly make that switch. So perhaps he feels that pressure more. Here's the thing, though. He has been playing ahead of Dardoch. Okay. Dardoch, that's like a very similar situation. If Dardoch didn't come with the baggage that he comes with, then he would probably already be a starter as well. Right.
And he's going to TSM.
And is that for real now? Is that he's a starter now at TSM?
Unless Twitter snuck one by me.
Okay. So
TSM's announcement,
but you see what I'm saying? It's like he's already been in the position where he's been playing
totally.
Meteos, that is, has been in a position where he's been playing above someone who could legitimately have an LCS spot. And guess what, man? He thrived. Meteos did really well.
Yeah.
He did really, really well. He was very impressive. So maybe we can cross our fingers and hope that won't be an issue for him, or maybe that the pressure is there, but he knows how to deal with it in a healthy way.
Yeah.
But it is, I see what you're saying. On the other side, it's interesting to think of, like, can we view this almost like a 6-man roster?
Yeah.
The potential may be there. If
you were the management, PapaSmithy, if you're Zikz, that is one of the things that you would love to be able to do, because that makes your overall team stronger. There's if you take all of the personalities, the egos, the history, the team dynamic stuff out of it, you are a better team if you have 6 potential players for any given Saturday or Sunday than if you have 5. It's just that much harder to prepare for you. And I have to expect that's going to be a really hard decision to make. You have the history on this. You know Meteos' thoughts on it, his feelings. And what ended up happening last time it happened. I would hesitate to do that. You know, which is not a great position to be in. And I'm not saying that it's something that is going to be an unsolvable problem for the team, but I do expect that if the time comes where we look at Contractz and we say the dude is playing the game well, there's gonna be a ... at the end of that, and you're gonna think, are we prepared to risk it all? Are we prepared to risk it all for Contractz?
The
And
guy
I don't know
can
if the
do
answer
the
is
mouse
yes.
and keyboard clickies.
He's got it going. He plays League of Legends well, man. I don't know if we shouldn't play him. It's a tough spot. And I saw somebody in chat, I think it was Mont, say Meteos watch incoming. I really don't want Meteos watch.
And I don't think we're headed in that direction.
I don't think so either. I know he was just joking too. But if he starts playing well, Cole, I'm gonna at least send you 1 or 2 texts saying, "Did you see how Contractz did?"
Well,
in the game this
I
week?
would just be. I think Hunter Thieves will be extra cautious about this because guess who's also on that LCS roster is the other guy who presumably was the subject of a let's switch things up against Team Liquid strategy.
Yeah.
And it did not end well for either party. You know what I mean? So I think there's going to be an extra dose of caution there. But I see what you're saying. So maybe not Meteos watch, maybe a Contractz watch. But clearly, if the goal is to develop this program,
yeah,
we're supposed to have as many great players as we can, so that pressure's going to be there.
How are we doing on time? We're doing okay.
Yeah.
Can we just talk briefly about, when I look at this, FakeGod, Contractz, Soligo, Prismal, Breezyyy,
mm-hmm.
I think that's actually a really solid developmental squad. FakeGod, we've talked at length about. I think the sky's the limit for FakeGod. I can't wait to see what happens. I could see him playing another split in Academy, continue to develop. And when Sumday's contract ends, I think there's a very real conversation there on what's the right move. And that's a good position to put yourself in. If you have to ask the question, you've done your job right, because the last place you want to be in is if we can't re-sign Someday, we're screwed.
Yeah.
The season is over. Next, 2021's a wash. So that's fantastic. I'm super excited about that. Contractz, we just talked about. I could see him playing tomorrow in the LCS. Soligo and Prismal are a little bit more. I feel like there's a little bit more tape on them. We've seen more from them, and I think there's more questions to ask and answer there. But Breezzyy is another one of those where who knows what we see from this kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
He could turn up to be an absolutely insane player for us. So I'm very excited about this Academy team, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. One, because you're going to have some high level play, and two, it's going to be cool to track their progress. And I kind of feel maybe it's just the fresh faces, the different look, but I think that's a good spot for us to be in right now.
Well, so I agree largely. Like I said, I think it's the when you talk about the experience breaking down between all of our players in Academy, I think it's a great mix. You do have to say though that Breezzyy is a question mark, right? We don't know what this guy can do. Earlier when I said I'd be interested to know how they found this guy, Kelsey in chat said we watched the video games, which is wonderful answer there. And I'm sure it's factual.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, you have to ask why Breezzyy over these other guys. Clearly there's something that they saw in him. I think that I don't think they just pulled this guy from like the 20th ranked League of Legends team in collegiate because they thought, that's a good place to start. I think clearly they identified something within him that was worth exploring.
Mentioned he was top 10 challenger. I think it was Wildshot.
Yeah, like he's done a lot of solo queue, so there's that portion of it, which is good. So, but that being said, we don't know how he is on like, a professional roster. So we will need to see how that plays out. He looks very young. I'll have to go back and try and find some tape I can watch on him.
Yeah. Let's do it.
But hey, man, bring it on. Bring it on. And I honestly think with Contractz and FakeGod in there, Soligo and Prismal who have done admirably on the Academy level. I mean, we're the reigning Academy Worlds champs.
We're going for the two-peat.
There's we could do it back to back to him, perhaps. Let's see how Breezzyy pans out. You know.
Let's see. I can't wait to watch. It's gonna be fun, man.
Yeah, but I genuinely am excited for the Academy roster, and with I think both with Contractz and FakeGod, there's already some cross potential with LCS. There's an interest there for LCS fans and a reason to watch the Academy program, and then it'll just be fun to see what they can do when it comes to being developmental, right? And what they can do to make our team more robust.
Let me just put this out there as well. With FakeGod as a backup for someday, I think we actually open up our LCS roster to the potential for a hot pickup of import talent in a different position. You know, that's something that we've never had before. We are always locked into our position players, right? Like it was always a riddle that couldn't be solved.
Why are you already trying to get someday off this roster?
I'm not.
We just got him back, man. Let him shine. Let the kind boy shine.
What if you could get another, like if somebody came to you and said, hey, Cole, Chovy's, you know, he was just a free agent.
Chovy decided he likes America so much that
That's an example that I gave. It's hyperbolic, but really, if you asked me that last season, I'd be like, that would be great. But I have no idea how that works because we're locked. You know.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is you have the roster flexibility with FakeGod available. He's still on the team. We have him assigned that we've never really had before. Don't go anywhere someday. I love you. Please.
Thank you. Thank you for adding that, man. We just got.
I'm the one who's always said, please keep someday. Please play someday. That was my whole thing, basically, as fantasy GM. Let's just throw everything else away and find a way to play someday again because I like it. I like to watch him play the video game.
Well, look, this is shaping up to be an interesting year. How much are we going to be able to trust the Papa? I'm at 100% right now.
Yeah. Maximum trust.
Which given what we've done to bring the 2018 roster back, man, that's a big thing for me. That's a big thing.
Yeah. They've sold it so far.
He is going to have quite the task at hand to manage all of these guys and their personalities to make this thing work. But until he can't do it, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And again, the vibe seems good so far. I can see things working out in a good direction for us. So I am optimistic about this program on both levels. Go ahead. You first.
He's kind of entering his foray into management, team management, general management on hard mode. He's made some decisions.
Yeah, that's what I was searching for. Yeah.
Yeah. That will be a challenge. It will be a real thing. He will have to find a way to manage. And we will see what his managerial chops are because those things will come up sooner or later, as they did before.
Yeah.
And it's just about how we navigate them, really is. And that's where I think maybe we're feeling a little bit more hopeful. That's probably where I'm feeling a little bit more hopeful that we're going into it eyes wide open. I don't expect that we'll be surprised if there are similar conversations and challenges in the future, because we shouldn't be.
Right. Well, let's finish with a couple of shout outs to our Keep It 100 crew.
Let's do it.
Now, if people who have been watching the show for a while will recall that after literally like a year of begging for it, we finally gave in and did a call-in show where we let our listeners play Fantasy GM and come to talk to us about their roster proposals. And a few of those things, I gotta hand it to some of you that some of your ideas, they actually seem to have come to fruition. So we wanted to just take a minute and shout out some of our friends and listeners who came in and did this thing. For instance, who would have thought that our man Jarrett, when he suggested that we find a college talent to add to our developmental program, I didn't think that was going to happen. I didn't see it happening. Lo and behold, we've got Breezzyy now. Jarrett, shout out Jarrett, signing college talent. Also, Shadow Wing, who called in and suggested that we try and focus on a more aggressive group of players, especially in mid lane, who suggested leader as an option. Like I said, there are similarities, in my opinion, between Ryoma and leader. And he suggested, I think, Acadian as jungler, but he was talking about people who would be more aggressive. We got a more aggressive jungler on this squad. Shout out Shadowwing.
And not to mention Cody's son.
100, yeah. Cody's son as well. And then finally, shout out Cosmic Flash, who way back then, this is before any rumors really happened, suggested that we go out and sign Zikz as the coach. Nailed it, dude.
Yeah.
Shout out Cosmic Flash.
Between those three, we have a lot covered.
Yeah.
So if we did like a GM by committee, we'd be in pretty good shape.
If we put everybody's best work together, we kind of did all right.
Right.
No one saw Ryoma coming, but we kind of did all right. So shout out to all the callers for keeping 100 for getting various pieces of this puzzle correct.
Yeah. I'm impressed.
And with that, before we do that, let's give a shout out to Dylan, Craven Dylan in chat, who just gifted 5 subs out. And it also gifted one earlier to Kelsey. So that's 6 subs gifted during the session. Thank you for being the treasury of gifts and subs for 100 Talk. Always making sure that the love is being spread around in a thick, creamy layer.
I also want to acknowledge, I don't think it was mentioned at the time, but Bedindrum did hit the 12-month sub.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. That's a full
1
year of subbing to us. Shout out Bedindrum.
It wasn't that long ago that we did our 1-year pod.
That's right.
I mean, that was fairly recent.
Yeah.
So, wow. You've earned the first next to your name on that one, Bedindrum.
So, as always, we love you guys. Thank you for listening. We'll be back. We'll be doing shows throughout.
Yes, my ideas.
Throughout the thing. We've got some stuff that we're kicking around that we think you'll enjoy. So stay tuned. Keep an eye on our Twitter feed, especially. You can find our Twitters underneath our names here. Here, look, I'm pointing to mine. Look at that production.
I'm pointing to mine right here.
There you go.
Right here.
But as always, thanks for listening, and we love you, and we miss you already. We'll see you.